All right. So this is session 28. Session 28, July 15th, 2026. Um, and this is a continuation of the meal. And Mayor is, he's talked about the plight of the Jewish farmers and why they're not doing better than they are, how their situation could be improved. So we'll start here. A Yid, oh, so raise, well, a Yid hat lieb Gesellschaft, hat Reisman gesagt. A Jew likes community, Reisman said. Hat lieb reinzugehen zu a Shochen, Chappen Shmuas. He enjoys going into a neighbor and grabbing a conversation, engaging in a conversation, spilling a kerzel. I guess that means playing cards. Playing cards. Hat Feind zu sein isoliert. He isn't happy when he's isolated. Das ist efshar gewein an Orzach, a word we heard a few times last time, an Orzach, varvus Geschuvenikis in der Alterheim seien geworden Geschuvenikers vergräbt. Okay, this is perhaps the cause why those who lived in the now how would you say Shuveniticus? Was that people like Tevye, the Milchiker, people who lived in very small communities who didn't live in the shtetl?
Yeah, these are people
Um,
who live outside the shtetl, typically in
mhm.
an agricultural community, and
Yeah.
often, in fact, agriculturalists themselves.
So like uh Tevye in the Milchiker story, he lived outside. These people who lived uh who were in the old home in our former lands, they became vergräbt. Now, I just wonder that word vergräbt, just, I always think of the word grub, meaning coarse. Is that related to that? They became coarsened.
That's right.
Yeah, vergräbt. Great word. Sie haben gelebt, um, isoliert von dem jüdischen gesellschaftlichen und kulturellen Leben. In es viva und zwischen Menschen war sie fremd. They lived isolated from the Jewish society and cultural life in an environment which was among people who were strange. They lived among people who were not Jews, who were not of like them. Das is a weitläufiger Svora, hat der Schochet gesagt. This is a now weitläufiger. Svora is hypothesis, but weitläufiger is like a high blown or a far away. Weit is far. But what
Yeah,
is
the other word
weit?
is life, and to run. It's not life,
Ah,
life.
oh, I see. Like it's a far-fetched. It's a far-fetched hypothesis. This this is said by the Shochet. Was mir interessiert, hat zugegeben, is das. What interests me, in other words, he sort of dismisses a little bit of what Reisman said, and he says, what interests me is das. Was tun die jüdische Farmers mit ihre Kinder, wenn es kommt die Zeit, für sie zu besuchen a Schul? Of course, he's interested in this because remember, he was hired as the shochet and the teacher of the children. So he has a financial interest here. So he says, what do these Jewish farmers do with their children when it comes time to look for a school for them. Der Ickel, wie beweisen sie, lebendig Meilen von der jüdischen Center zu geben ihre Kinder a jüdische Erziehung. The main point, how do they manage living miles from the Jewish centers to give their children a Jewish education? Is es taka a problem? Horowitz bemerkt. This is indeed a problem, Horowitz remarked. Zu schicken sie in a Stadt verdoppelt die Hotzoyes. To send them to the town would double the expenses. Und das wird sein eine von den Siebes, was wird zwingen, Asach jüdische Farmers sich rüber zu kleben, zurück in Stadt. So, and this additional expense, if they're looking for a Jewish education for their children, is one of the reasons that would force a lot of these Jewish farmers to come back to the city. Meyer hat bedeutet dem Fakt, was jüdische Organisations seinen Verton in kleiner momentale Hilfe und Tzedakah-Arbeit. Meyer, we're back to Meyer again, was regretful that regretful of the fact that the Jewish organizations are involved in small, ephemeral, of the moment, not solid, Hilf und Tzedakah-Arbeit und vernachlässigen als wichtigen Indien, and they're involved in these rather ephemeral and help and charitable works, and they neglect the important matter, wie einordnen jüdische Families auf Erd. They're neglecting the important matter of setting up Jewish families on the earth, on the land. Es liegen noch rechoves Stochim. There are still available wide open land spaces, fruchtbare, fruitful places, auf welche man kann besetzen sämtliche Families, on which could be settled tens of families, ganze colonias, whole colonies, like we're set up in South America. It's is die Zeit und die Gelegenheit derfor. This is the time and the opportunity for this. Es ist möglich, als die Meluche wollt unterstützen als Plan. It is possible for the government to support such a plan. Mit etliche Jahr später wird schon öfter sein zu spät. In just a couple of years, it could be too late to do this. Horowitz is gewesen sicher. Horowitz was sure, als die Regierung wollte unterstützen als ein Projekt. Horowitz was sure that the government would support such a project. Ot ordnet sie doch ein Menschen auf kleine Stücke Grund und gibt sie alle mögliche Hilfe und Stütze. Now it is organizing. Now, this word doch, which had last time, and it was translated as certainly, but I think here well, it is it is clearly um, or, organizing people on small pieces of land, Grund, and gives them every kind of help and support. Zu een project, zu welchen die Regierung wird nicht dürfen besteuern Geld for a project that the government would not have to contribute money, wollt sie gewiss geben ihr Broche und praktische Anweisungen. If the government did not have to give money, it would certainly give its blessing and its practical instructions. Noch in Essen seien hereingekommen der Schmidt mit sein Freu. After eating, there entered, or the blacksmith and his wife came in, und Wasserman. I guess they hadn't been invited to the meal. Sein Freu, that is Wasserman's Freu, is gewesen in Stott auf a Besuch bei ihrer Eltern. His wife, Wasserman, was alone because his wife was in the city, I guess that's Johannesburg, for a visit to her parents. In ein Weg, I guess hat gesucht, in one swoop, in one a visit, in one time, wird sie schon sich sehen mit a doctor. At the same time that she's going to see her parents, she's also going to see a doctor. Die Luftdor in Bushmankov, the atmosphere here in Bushmankov, palubit ihr upon him nicht. The atmosphere here in Bushmankov doesn't agree with her so much. Golda, Benny's Freu, that's the Schmid's wife, hat mitgebracht a tort. She brought with her a tort. I guess, what is that, a quiche?
It's a cake.
A cake. Thank you, a cake. A tort. Was sie allein hat gebacken, that she herself had baked. Und kleine Biswickler, and little biscuits, euch ihr Arbeit, also her work. Backen und kochen, hat Benny gesagt, is ihr Vergnügen. Baking and cooking is her pleasure, Benny said. Sie steht schon in Kirch. Do you say shan or shoin? How do you say that word? She'en, shin ayin hey nun.
It's showing hours.
Showen, okay, yeah. Sie steht schon in Kirch und macht potraves. She stands hours in the kitchen and makes, I don't know what potraves is. I guess wonderful dishes, wonderful delights.
Delicacies.
Delicacies, very nice potraves. A Ness, was ich bin nicht kein größter Achler. It's really a wonder, a miracle that I am not a big eater. Wenn jo wollt men gekonnt sagen, if it were that way, that I was a big eater, you'd say in Hebrew, you could say, as ich hab Chasene gehabt mit ihr zu lieb der Achille. You could, if I had been such a big eater, you could say that I married her because she was such a good cook. Not a bad reason, I don't think. Die Meloche von Backen und Kochen habe ich gelernt bei meiner Mutter. The business, the tradition of baking and cooking, I learned from my mother, hat Golda said. Sie seien gewesen a große Familie. They were a big family, an Orma, a poor family. Hat ihre Mutter sich gemusst kriegen wie zu speisen die Familie mit wenig. So nicely put that my mother was required to become very clever how to feed this family with very little means. Pflegt sie machen allerlei Gerichten von Hering. So she made all kinds of dishes from herring, Kartoffel, potatoes, Grinsen und damit opnaren die Morgens. And she made all these wonderful dishes from very simple things like herring, potatoes, greens. And in this way, she tricked the uh, the stomach. So we felt that like we were full. Okay, Elka, on to you. Eleanor. I'll always think of you as Eleanor Roosevelt.
Let me just point out, I looked up that word, uh, um, Weitläufen. It's not in
Ah,
Bothwell's dictionary, but it is in Justus's Dutch dictionary.
ah,
And
ah,
so now it's in my dictionary as well. Uh, it means extensive or cumbersome or rambling. So when he
uh-huh.
says your reasoning is weitläufig, I think it means just what you said.
Right.
You're being too general.
Right. You're going off into the air. Well, Mayor has his ideas, so we can all vote later on whether we like Mayor, we like Horovitz, or okay, Elka.
Der Schmidt hat übergegeben, als hat gehört, Klangen, als es kommen vor äh, Reibungen in einem Kabinett. Schmidt let people know
Yeah, yeah.
that
Reiben is to rub, so Reibungen are frictions.
he had heard
No, she's
rumblings.
not up to that. But the Schmied hat übergegeben. That's where you were, Elka, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he let it be known, hat übergegeben.
Hmm.
He let it be known that he had heard rumblings that there were conflicts in the cabinet. Can
Yeah.
I say that?
Yeah. But what is the use of the word for there? Men for I don't understand. I just don't know enough grammar. Why is for there?
It's part
Kommen
of the verb,
vor.
vorkommen, to occur, vorkommen.
Ah, there it is. Yeah.
Genau weiß man noch kein Sach nicht. As of now, we don't know anything, aber die Klangen sagen, als der Premier und der Justizminister gehen sich voneinander in ihre Meetingen, Meinungen handelen die innerliche und euch wegen die äußerliche äh, politische Unionen. So the rumor has it that the prime minister and the justice minister have parted ways uh, in their ideas, and then what is hon legabe?
Hein Lagabe, both with regard to.
With
Mhm.
regard to, oh, Rafi, can you help me with that sentence? Because there's too
Yeah,
many.
it's weird because he starts with Hein Lagabe and then he
Yeah.
doesn't put the correlative in it. He then says euch wegen, which is
Mhm.
Yiddishism then. So both with respect to innerliche and also with respect to äußerliche politische Inyonim, both with respect to internal and external political affairs.
Okay, thank you. Marcia, can we move it up a little bit? Thank you. Wenn Konnes der Warten hat Horwitz gesagt. We could have expected that, Horwitz said. Der Justizminister ist ständig gewesen Pfarrer mehr aktiver drum
Durham, South.
Dorm Afrikaner Politik. The justice minister has always been much more active as a South African politician.
No, he was in favor of a
Oh.
more active South African politics.
Okay, thank you. Is oft herausgetroffen gegen eine Politik, was ist basiert auf Hutzland.
Or it's outside the
Chutz
country.
la'aretz.
Hutzla Ares.
Mhm.
He often advocated a policy that was based on what is Hutzla Aretz?
External.
Based on
Outside
external.
of the land, outside of this land.
Mm-hmm.
And at Kagan politic, he had often come out against politics which are based on external affairs.
Oh, thank you. Kagan is against?
Yes.
Okay. Wie ich verstehe es, as I see it, hat Mayor gesagt, Mayor said, besteht der Hiluk zwischen Herzog und dem Premier Botter.
Botha, the Prime Minister's name was Botha.
Botha.
How do you say that again, please? Boita?
Botha, yeah.
Like B-O-Y, Boita?
Oh, no,
Botha.
B-O-T,
Yeah.
yeah.
But in Yiddish we pronounce it as Boita. So the difference between Herzog and the Premier and Premier Botha is this. Herzog fordert genommendig in Betracht als die Vereinigung von die Provinzen geben große potenzielle Möglichkeit für der ökonomische Entwicklung von dem Land ist der Aufgabe von der
It's a very long
Regierung.
sentence, Elka. Why don't you split it
we should
up?
stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stopping here.
Yeah.
So Herzog always thought that the only is Vereinigung the interest.
Unification.
Sorry?
Unification.
The unification of the provinces give great potential advantages for the economic uh,
Development,
development,
development.
economic development of the country, and that is the Aufgabe. Is that the duty of the government?
Yeah, so that's the main sentence. So the first part is taking into account, nemen dik in betracht, taking into account all of this. Therefore, the duty of the government is die
Okay.
Aufgabe von der Regierung.
Sagt uns zu mitigen und auf viele helfen, etablieren lokale Industries, Fabriken. So the duty of the government, he says, is to support and help the establishment of local industries, factories, welche sollen van Ort, which are on on land, do Gufe in land. What does that mean, do Gufe in land?
Specifically here in the country.
I see. So Gufe, what is Gufe?
Gufa, it's an Aramaic expression. It means itself.
Oh, okay, right here.
In this land itself.
Thank you. Ausfertigen die neue Materialien, to develop the natural resources. Lemoshel.
I'm not sure it's to develop natural resources. It's the factories which should, right here in our country, prepare the raw materials. Ausfertigen, make, well, maybe
Make
it is
use of,
maybe it is make use of, yeah.
to use the raw, in other words, to use the raw materials right here instead of, I think what's been happening in most of these situations is that the raw materials are being shipped out, and he's saying we should use those raw materials that we have right here in this the Gufa in this land. We should use it right here. We shouldn't ship it out.
So they should make the products and not just
Right,
sell the raw materials for others to make the products.
I think that's what's being said.
Wir exportieren wohl. So what he means is we are exporting.
For example.
We export wool.
Yeah.
Die Dosike Wohl bekommen wir zurück in fertig fabrizierte Kleider. And this very same wool comes back to us in produced clothing. Für was soll man nicht ausarbeiten die Kleider do Gufe? Why shouldn't we just make the clothing here, in the land? Das wird geben Möglichkeit zu verkaufen dem ausgearbeiteten Artikel billiger und geben Arbeit für Sachmenschen. So this would produce profit to sell.
This would give an opportunity to sell.
This would give an opportunity to sell the produced articles and it would create work for many people.
Billiger cheaper.
Okay. The produced articles would be cheaper, and this would create work for a lot of people. Aber die dosige Aktie wird unterschneiden der Markt von dem englischen Fabrikant und Exporter, und das will der Premier ausmeiden. But this very action would undermine the brand for the English industrialists and exporters, and that is what the premier Oismaiden. What is Oismaiden?
He wants to avoid that.
This is what he wants to avoid. Es
Uh-huh.
ist eigentlich ein Kampf zwischen die englische und die Drum-Afrikaner
So,
Industrial
Dorum, south. It's a Hebrew
Dorum,
word, Dorum.
Afrikaner Industrialisten. So this is the struggle between the English and the South African industrialists. I'll pass the buck now to the next person.
Well, I guess that's me. Die Frauen haben sich verklitten auf den Veranda. The wives, the women, are collected on the porch von Haus, of the house. Und haben sich geteilt mit die Nais, and they exchanged news. Was hat sie gekriegt durch der Woche, which had reached them during this week. Golda hat geschmeichelt und gesagt, Golda smiled and said, as Wassermann's Weib schwangert, that Wassermann's wife is pregnant. Sie ist gefahren sich beraten mit dem Doctor, and that she had traveled to get some advice from a doctor. Nach der Geburt von dem letzten Kind, after her previous child had been born, is sie gewesen krank. She had been ill. Ob der Doktor wird ihr sagen, if the doctor will tell her, as sie darf es nicht haben, that she should not have a child, is was wird sie tun? So then what would she do? Hat Leah gewollt wissen. Leah wished to know. Sie wird tun, was alle heutige Frauen tun. She do what all the modern women do. Was will nicht haben dem Joch von Kinder auf sich, who do not want to have the burden of children on their necks. Yoke, of course, is a yoke. Hat Golda geantwortet. Golda answered, heutige Welt, and heutige Menschen. That's the modern world and modern people. O tempora, o mores, hat Frau Hurwitz gesagt. Mrs. Hurwitz said, keiner will nicht tragen a Joch auf sich. No one wants to carry a yoke on one's own shoulders. Nicht dem Familienjoch, but nicht dem Joch von Glauben. Neither the yoke of having a family, nor that of having a belief. Man sucht nur Vergnügen. Vergnügen. People only seek pleasures. A gringen Leben, and easy life. In meine Zeiten, back in my days, in deine Zeiten, and in alle Zeiten, both in your days and in all times, hat Leah nicht gelassen ihre Mutter endigen. Leah didn't allow her mother to finish. In those days, seinen euch gewähren allerlei Menschen. Also, there were all sorts of people. Menschen, welche haben gesucht Vergnügenden, people who sought pleasures, and Menschen, welche haben getragen dem Joch, and people who carried the burden. Was das Leben oder Menschen haben einen Ruf gelegt auf sie, which either life or people had burdened them with. Es seien viele gewesen gemischte Chasanes. There were even mixed marriages. Das der ermahnt mir. That reminds me, hat Golda gesagt. Golda said, wie halt es mit Meeren und die Bohrenmädel? Was ist ihr Name, Linda? What's going on with Mayer and the Bohren girl? What is Bohren here? Is that a last name?
No, Boer. She's from the
Oh,
Boer
she's a Boer,
community.
of course. I
Yeah.
guess it's
Remembers
not Boer.
her father. Her father.
Yeah, of course, Janshet. Yeah,
This
okay.
is a very
Right. A mixed marriage, indeed.
well,
Yeah.
no, it's a very
And I
it's a
keep
very
forgetting
high
that.
level marriage.
And I keep forgetting that OE in Afrikaans is pronounced U. So I always thought it was the Boer Wars, but it's Boer, right? Okay. Die was van Dorm Afrika kennen mich verrichten. So what's going on with Mayor and the Boer girl? Was ist ihre Name? What was she called? Linda? Ich weiß Punkt so wenig wie ihr. I know just as little as you do, hat Frau Horowitz gesagt. Mrs. Horowitz said. Ich will ihm doch nicht fragen. Of course, I don't want to ask him. Und mein Mann hat mir verboten, sich zu mischen in Meires private Asokim. And my husband has forbidden me to get mixed up in Meir's private affairs. Aber mein Herz blutigt mir. But my heart bleeds in me. As a voiler Bocher, such a great guy, warft sich weg, is just throwing himself away, sliba shenim ponim, because of a beautiful face. Hat geduld, just be patient, hat Golda gesagt. Golda said, es hat noch nicht hat noch nicht Chasene gehabt. He's not got married yet. On der Zustimmung von der Mädels Eltern, without the agreement of the girl's parents, wollen sie nicht heiraten. They'll never get married. That word heiraten is, of course, very Germanic. Und Jansche, sagt man mir, is a frumer. And Jansche, her father, they tell me, is pious und wird gewiss nicht zustimmen and will certainly not agree, als sein Tochter soll Chasana haben mit Jiden, that his daughter should get married to a Jew. Was glaubt viele nicht in sein eigenem jüdischen Gott, who doesn't even believe in his own Jewish God. Der ältere Daniel, Leru, is zugekommen. The old Daniel Leru came in. Do we know anything about him?
He's the father of Jan. He's, yeah.
Is it the grandfather then of Linda?
No.
A different Jan. This isn't Jan.
Jan, yeah. No.
Okay.
As
Right.
I remember it, they are the Babler. They were rental farmers on
Right.
one of the rich farmers'
Okay.
farms.
And they
And
moved in. And they moved into town. And they had this wonderful son who, remember how he learned the language by looking at the newspapers? A very, very intelligent and quick-witted son.
And I assume that Daniel is not Jewish then.
No.
It's Daniel, not Daniel. Okay. And Leroux, it sounds French. The old Daniel Leroux is zugekommen. Daniel Leroux came in. Hat begrüßt die Frauen, he greeted the women, und sich noch gefragt auf die Männer. And he asked how the husbands are doing. Sie spielen mit Stomachkarten. I guess most likely they're playing cards. Hat probiert treffen. He tried to guess. Nee, hat Golda answered. No, Golda answered. Sie sind in Haus. They are in the house. Sie reden Politik. They're talking about politics. Aber soll, if so, hat der Alter gesagt, the old fellow said, gehe ich schmusen mit sie. I'm going to go talk with him. Karten spiele ich nicht, but I don't play cards. Aber ich finde ein bisschen freie Zeit. Whenever I find a little bit of free time, schlaf ich. I go to sleep. Oder ich lerne die Zeitung, or I read the newspaper. Die Zeitungen seien ungefüllt mit Liegens. Well, the newspapers are just full of lies. Fake news.
Fake
Mit
news.
die Wörter is rein in wenig. And with these words, he went indoors. MSV Gold, hat Horowitz gesagt. Quite true. As true as gold, Horowitz said. Mit nicht glauben a Wort, was die Zeitungen erzählen. You shouldn't believe a word of what the newspapers recount. But reden sie wegen einer Milchama zwischen England and Deutschland. Now they're talking about a war between England and Germany. Was denkt Daniel? What does Daniel think? You know, is an honorific?
It's like uncle, isn't it, Moshe? You told us that. Yeah, it's like uncle.
Better Daniel, if he was.
Okay, good.
Good old chap, Daniel.
Right. Ich bin nicht kein Politiker, hat der Alter gesagt. I'm not a politician, the old guy said. Aber meine Erfahrung sagt mir, but my experience tells me, als die große Meluchas können nicht existieren an Milchames, that the big countries can't exist without going to war. Die Sibbe, für was England ist gekommen sich schlagen mit die Boeren, the reason that England came to fight against the Boers, verstehe ich, that I understand. Gold. It's all money. It's gold, the gold mines. Aber für was England mit Deutschland sollen sich haben für die Gurgeln? But why England and Deutschland should peer each other's throats? Das verstehe ich nicht. That I don't understand. One more sentence. Merk, hat Horwitz gesagt. Just notice, Horwitz said. Deutschland kriegt England in die Beine.
No, I thought you told me last time
Oh yeah,
that
it's
Merk was the
Merk.
plural
Not,
of Mark.
you're right. It's not
A
American.
market.
It's just Merk. It's
You
the
taught
markets.
me that.
Right. Okay. Well, I can forget.
We were talking about that, Moshe, right?
Yeah,
Brain.
Merk. It's the markets. Horwitz said. Deutschland kriegt England in die Beine auf den Weltmarkt. There it is. Yeah. Deutschland is really annoying England. It crawls into England's bones, literally, in the world market. Unterschneit die Preisen and is undercutting the prices. Und nicht nur von die Merk stupt Deutschland heraus England. It's not just in the markets that Deutschland is replacing or shoving England aside. Sie droht Englands Jahrmacht. It's also threatening England's sea power. Hat Wasserman bemerkt. Wasserman remarked. Okay, that's enough for me.
Am I next? I'm not sure.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Die Fliegelen
Before that, Scheinzeit.
Schon Zeit, als Amateur soll opklappen, die Fliegelen bei dem englischen imperialism. It's already time that someone should clip the wings of English imperialism, what Daniel gesagt. Daniel said, die Fliegelen voneinander Imperialism, what Benny der Schmidt gesagt, können und wollen öfter Wochen starker wie die englische. The wings of the power of another imperialism, Benny the Schmidt said, can and may perhaps wave even stronger than the English wings. So someone may be worse than the English. The fact, als wir haben sich geschlagen mit England, meint doch nicht, als der englische Imperialism is der ärgste. The fact that we have fought with England doesn't yet mean that the English imperialism would be the worst. Hurwitz hat verkehrt dem Gespräch. Hurwitz turned the discussion aside. He said, what gesagt, he said, als Jan ist erheben geworden zum Amt von Vormann, I hear that Jan has been promoted to the office of becoming a foreman. Daniel und Tante Henya dürfen sein zufrieden mit Jans Progress. Uncle Daniel and Aunt Henya must be satisfied with Jan's progress. Aber seien wir zufrieden. We're definitely very satisfied. What der Alter gesagt, the old man said. Aber wir wollten gewinnen noch mehr zufrieden, wenn wollte sich nicht gechabert, also viel mit what dem Schottländer, but we would have been even more satisfied if he wouldn't have become so friendly with the Scottish guy, was is sein Nomen McGill. What's his name? McGill. Jener pumpt da rein in Janen so eine moderne Ideen und geht ihm zu lernen als eine Bücher um, he is pumping into him such strange ideas and gives him such books to read, was zu Tumult Janen dem Kopf, that confuse Jan. Um, what hat jetzt sich hereingenommen in Kopf? Now he has taken it into his head as farming alleen teugt nicht, that only farming is not good. Transport teugt nicht. Transport isn't good. An Ummelten hat vermehr und sein Mammen. The other day he uh, in Gegenwart von Janschen abgehalten, eine lange Drosche wegen dem, okay, the other day in front of myself and my mother and his mother, and in the presence of Janscha, he had a long sermon about about the following. Als Volk, was versteht zum größten Teil von Pastocher und Transportführer und Beiwohners, hat nicht keine Zukunft. That a nation whose greater part are made up of shepherds, farmers, and transport people who drive transport and people who live on other people's land and are poor doesn't have a future. Landarbeit, what gesagt, farming, he said, is Taka der Rückenbein von our folk, is the backbone of a nation. Aber our Rückenbein ohne Guf kann sich Land nicht halten. But a backbone without a body cannot survive. When der Guf von our folk and the body of a nation, what gesagt, he said, is industria, is in industry. Beim jetzigen Moment at this time, hat gesagt, he said, is the gold industry the Ickerdika, the gold industry is the important one, aber es fordern sich euch andere industries, but other industries are also needed. Darüber, and therefore, hat gesagt, he said, is eins mit dem Justizminister, he is in agreement with the Minister of Justice, welche fordert, who demands, als das Land soll entwickeln eigene Industries, that the country should develop its own industries. Seien das Jans Werther? Is this really what Jan was saying? Nay, no. Das redet mit Patrick McGill's Moyle. No, he's just spouting what Patrick McGill taught him. Was hat gesagt der Rolf Janscher? What did Janscher say about this? What Meyer gefragt, Meyer asked. Janscher, wie ich, hat geschockt mit dem Kopf. Janscher, the same as I did, shook his head. Jan verkriegt, hat gesagt, in Welten, wo seinen ihm fremd. Jan is getting involved in things, in worlds that he is a stranger to. He doesn't understand what he's getting into, basically. Lässt sich verführen von die englischen Sozialisten. He's allowing himself to be led astray by the English socialists, welche willen überkehren unser Lebenssteiger mit dem Kopf herab. And these socialists want to overturn our way of living and turn it upside down with the kopar upside down. Jansche is a Watermensch. Jansche belongs to Water's party, what Hurwitz gesagt. Hurwitz said, und der Premier ist gegen etablieren Industries do in Land, and the Prime Minister is against establishing industries in the land. Das meint a Reusstücken dem Ausländer Industrialist unam Higgenmarkt. That means to push out the Uitlander, the stranger. In Afrikaans it's called an Uitlander, someone from outside the land. He wants to push out the industrialist who don't belong here. He wants to push them out from the local market. Sie wollen herausstupen dem fremden Industrialist. They will push out the stranger industrialist, what Daniel said, und wollen hereinbringen ausländische Ideen, was ist öfter schädlicher. And they want to bring in foreign ideas that are even more damaging. Neue Ideen, new ideas, what Meyer said, wie neue Kleider, like new clothes, müssen verarbeiten die alte. New clothes have to take the place of old clothes. Wenn die alte nützen nicht mehr, when the old clothes are not anymore of use. Und wie Kleider and like clothes, treibt sich jeder einem, was das, was ihm gefällt besser. And like clothes, everyone chooses what suits him the best. I'll read the last sentence and then upon him, as ich bin schon zu alt zu begreifen. Apparently, I am too old to really appreciate, understand this, what LaRue gesagt mit a Resignation tone. He said very resignedly, I give up on this. Okay, I think it's time for Jacob to take over.
Okay. Kapitel 34. Der Wuchs von der jüdischen Bevölkerung in Buschmannkop ist gestiegen zugleich mit dem Wuchs von Städten in allgemein. The growth of the Jewish population in Buschmannkop went up together with the growth of the town in general. In a kurzer Zeit haben in Buschmannkop sich gefunden a Reihe moderne Menschen. In quite a short time, there were found in Buschmannkop a group of modern Geschäften, of modern shops. 2 Bank, a Hotel, a Postkantor, a Polizeizirkel, a Kirch, a 4 Klassenschul und zusammen mit der Mill, die Kuznia, Dentist, Sägermacher und Apotheke. Okay, let me stop over there. In quite a short time, in Buschmannkop, there were found a whole number of new businesses: 2 banks, a hotel, a post office, a police station, a church, a school that had 4 classes, und zusammen mit der Mill, and together with the mill, the kuznia, the smithy, a dentist, a watchmaker, and a chemist, was einer, Mr. Hanson, hat geöffnet mit gora kurzer Zeit zurück. This pharmacy that one Mr. Hanson had opened a short while before, hat Buschmannkop bekommen der Sponim von a hübsche Städtel. So with all of these businesses opening up in a short time, Buschmannkop received the appearance of a large town. Die jüdische Bevölkerung hat gezählt a 20 Families. The Jewish population counted about 20 families. Arum 25, 50 Neshafas, about 55 souls. Trotzdem haben in Distrikt von Bushmankop gelebt 6, 7 jüdische farmer families. And besides this, in the Bushmankop district, there were living 6 or 7 Jewish farmer families. Die erste Chadoshim noch sein Kummen ken Bushmankop hat Lippmann der Scheuchet nicht gehabt kein Arbeit. In the first months after his arrival in Bushmankop, Lippmann the Scheuchet didn't have any work. Es ist ihm ausgekommen zu keulenen 2, 3 hindlich durch der Woche. He managed to slaughter 2 or 3 chickens during the week. Kinder mit welcher soll können gründen nach Cheder, seien euch nicht gewinn genug. So there weren't enough children for him to establish a Cheder. Hat gelangweiligt. So because there weren't enough children to really start a Cheder, he was bored. In die Leidike Schoen is gesessen in Huis. In his free time, he sat at home beim Schmied, and he was living with the smithy, by Wassermannen, gestudiert dem Mechanism von die Zeigerlich. So he sat at home in the Smith's home with Wassermann, and he studied the mechanisms of watches, welche man hat gebracht, verrichten zu Reismannen. These watches which they had brought for Reismann to repair. Und gelernt und übergelernt die etliche Bücher, was hat mitgebracht mit sich von London. And he read and reread the few books that he had brought with him from London. Und welche Wassermann hat ihm ausgeliehen, and also the books that Wassermann had lent him. Kein größer Kollektion von Bücher hat Wassermann euch nicht vermogt. Wassermann also didn't have a very large collection of books. Das Rov von seinen Büchern seinen Gewinn technischer, wegen Zähner und Dentisterei. Most of the books that he had were technical ones about teeth and dentistry. Lippmann, hat euch verbracht das Sachzeit in Schmusen mit Freu und Leia Hurwitz. He, Lippmann, also spent a lot of time chatting with Mrs. Horowitz and Leia in Horowitz's shop, and also in Horowitz's shop. Ich will werden a businessman, hat gespaßt. I want to become a businessman, he joked. Aber oft hat sich ernst vertracht wegen dem. Efsher, but often he thought about this seriously. Perhaps in Tog gefinnen ik zich alleen auf een breiten Weg, was führt zu Wanderfontein, der bei Meyers Farm, hat der dosige Gedank ihm nicht abgelost. One day, when he found himself alone on the broad way path which led to Wanderfontein and passed by Meyer's farm, this very thought wouldn't leave him alone. Is gegangen spazieren, gegangen langsam vertracht. He went for a walk, and he walked slowly, pensively. Das Leben im Bushmankop is trocken. Life in Bushmankop is dry, nicht interessant, inhaltlos. It's not interesting, and it has no content. Emes lechaschila hat gewusst. It's true that from the outset he knew, as das Ort was trok dem Nomen Bushmankop is nahe klein, aber hat nicht gehabt kein ander Breire. From the outset, he knew that this place, which carried the name of Bushmankop, was new and small, but he had no alternative. Kommendig von London hat sich herumgeblonket, 6 Chadoshim in Johannesburg. After his arrival from London, he wandered around Johannesburg for 6 months. Und nicht gekonnt sich erschlagen zu etwas. And he couldn't find anything to do. Hat gute Kabbalah als Scheuchet. He had good experience as a Scheuchet. Und Qualifikatiebrief als hebräischer Lehrer. And he had letters of introduction, perhaps, and letters of qualification as a Hebrew teacher. Aber die Türen seien gewinn verschlossen vor ihm, but doors were closed to him. Hat bekommen den Eindruck, as es herrscht ein monopol. He got the impression that there existed some kind of monopoly, ein konspirative Verschwörung bei die Kleikoidisch, nicht zu der losen Anayim Ponim, that there was like a conspiracy, a pact among the religious functionaries that didn't allow a new face to come in, a frischen koyach in Zeire Reihen. Didn't allow a new face, a fresh force in their ranks. Das bissel Geld, was hat mitgebracht von England, is zerrunen geworden. The little bit of money that he had brought with him from England dried up. It dissipated. Hat angenommen die Stelle im Bushmankop, and so he accepted the position in Bushmankop. Aber was für eine Zukunft ist für ihn da? But what kind of future did he have over here? Ja, das Städtel wächst. Families und Geschäften kommen auf durch Nacht. It's true that the town was growing. Families and businesses arrived overnight. Wie schwämmlich noch a Regen, like mushrooms after a rain. Aber kein zweiter Johannesburg wird es nicht werden. But a second Johannesburg it'll never become. Es wollen zukommen noch etliche jüdische Families. Several more Jewish families would arrive. In a paar Jahre rum wird man öfter hecheren sein Schiris mit noch ein paar Pfund. Is es a tachlis? So, with the arrival of new families in a few years' time, perhaps they will raise his wages, his salary, with a few pounds. Is this a tachlis, a serious matter? Is this something that he can rely on? Von beide Seiten weg seien gelegen grüne Felder. On both sides of the way there were green fields. Maschines haben geschnitten Tefgras. Machines were cutting Teff grass. Das Gras hat sich zerlegt in flache Reihen. The grass was lying in heaps, in rows of heaps, fallendig über ein Messer, as they fell after being cut. In der Bayeke Felder hat man gejet und gebronnet Millis. In the nearby fields, they were weeding and harrowing the corn, the Millis. Lippmann hat sich abgestellt, betrachten die Arbeit. Lippmann stopped to consider this work. Hat sich eingebeugen, reingenommen Häufen grünem Teffgras und gefühlt die kille Weichkeit von die jungen Milchpflanzen. So he bent down and he took a heap of green tiff grass in his hand, and he felt the cool softness of the young mealie plants. Es ist gewesen das erste Mal, was hat gesehen a farm do in Land. It was the first time that he had seen a farm here in this country. Hat bichlal nicht gehabt kein Begriff wegen Landarbeit. He had no concept at all of agriculture. Ist geboren und aufgewachsen in einer großen polnischen Stadt. He was born and he grew up in a large Polish city. Seine Eltern seien gewinn vermöglicher. His parents were well-to-do. Aber in der Zeit von Pogrom, was ist ausgebrochen bei seinen Stadt, hat man sein Vaters Ledergeschäft zerrobiert und sein Vater ist umgekommen. But during the pogrom, which broke out in that city, in his city, they plundered his father's leather business, and his father perished. Verteidigendig sein Familie, as he was defending his family. Liebman, is weg in London mit der Idee, sich rüber zu schaffen in Amerika. He, Liebman, left for London with the intention, with the idea of moving over to America. Gekommen ist in Afrika, Leute, Eitze von a Freund. He arrived in Africa after he was advised by a friend. Was hat ihm versichert, als dorten ist voran an Chappenisch auf Schochtim und hebräischer Lehrer. This friend of his assured him that in Africa there was a run on Shochtim and Hebrew teachers. Heint weiß besser. Today he knows better. Seine Machshovas haben übergerissen Tritt von Keverton Pferd. His thoughts were interrupted by the sounds of a shoed horse. Was hat gehört ankommen hinter sich, which he heard coming behind him. Der Reiter ist zugekommen und hat sich abgestellt neben Liebmannen. The horse rider reached him and stopped next to Liebman. Ist gesprungen vom Pferd. He jumped off the horse. Hat getrogen a streuenem breitrandiger Hut. He was wearing a broad-rimmed straw hat auf dem Kopf und seine Arbeitskleider, seinen Gewinn verstäubt. And his working clothes were dusty. Azoi is euch gewinn sein Ponim, as was his face. His face was also dusty. Was macht ihr, Liebmann? Hat ihm Meyer begrüßt. How are you, Liebmann? Meyer greeted him. Oh, Meyer, ich habe euch nicht erkannt in euer Arbeitskleider. Oh, Meyer, I didn't recognize you in your working clothes. Hat Liebmann gesagt. Liebmann said. Meyer hat ihm verbeten zu sich heim. Meyer invited him to his home. Es ist nicht weit von dannen, hat angewiesen auf ein Dach von einem Haus. It's not far from here, he said, pointing to the roof of a house. Was hat sich angesehen zwischen Eichenbeimer? So he pointed to the house which was visible among the oak trees. Landarbeit, hat Liebmann gesagt, gehendig, ist sicher an interessante und gesunde Arbeit. Agriculture, Lippmann said as they were walking, is probably an interesting and healthy kind of work. Arbeit ist in der frischen Luft, hat Meyer gesagt, ist gewiss gesund, gesünder wie in einer vermachten und heißen Fabrik. Working in the fresh air, Meyer said, is certainly healthier than sitting in an enclosed and hot factory. Aber wenn man schmust wegen interessant, wendet sich es an der Person. But if you're talking about interesting, it depends on the individual, on the person. Für mir ist es interessant. For me, it is interesting. Aber für Zähnlicher und hunderte andere ist es öfter nicht interessant. But for tens and hundreds of other people, it's perhaps not interesting. Es ist eine schwere Arbeit, was fordert das Sach Ausdauer, bringt oft eine Sach Enttäuschungen und wenig Schar. It's difficult work and it demands perseverance and it often brings disappointments and very little reward.